Good morning, it's Coach Stone with ISN Intensity Starts Now. This morning I'm going to help you, give you some ideas, some suggestions on how to pass the NASM exam. This will be beneficial and help you pass the exam. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with the study guide. You just go online, OPT NASM study guide. You'll print that out. It consists of 49 pages. And I'm going to go over it with you this morning, highlight and tell you what you really need to focus on, what's important, what's not important, what to spend more time on. But the first and most important thing is change your mindset. The mindset in going into this exam, you need to go into the exam thinking you want to ace it. You want to ace the exam. Your mindset should be, I want to get 100%. Because think of it this way. If you go in thinking I want to get 100% and you miss a couple, you'll pass it. So let's change our mindset. Let's not think, oh gosh, I just want to pass the test. I just want to get through this. It's so difficult. It's so hard. It's not. I passed the NASM exam on the first attempt. Again, on the first attempt, it took 52 minutes. For me, it's not difficult. Listen to the way I approached it. I think it'll be beneficial and helpful for some people out there. We all have different study techniques. I feel this will be beneficial for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's my NASM exam that I passed. Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start off with the study guide. Again, this consists of 49 pages. I'm gonna tell you what you should focus on, what's more important, what's less important. On the first page, basic and applied sciences and nutritional concepts. Know about the nervous system, sensory, integrative, and motor. Second page, you want to know about the Golgi tendon organs, muscle spindles, you'll see that on the exam. Sacromere, you'll see that on the exam. Page 3, I really didn't see much on page 3. Page 4, the cardiorespiratory system. You want to focus on the right atrium, left atrium, the ventricles, right ventricle and left ventricle. Page 5, you want to remember stroke volume, cardiac output, expiration, bioenergetics and exercise metabolism. You want to remember aerobic, anaerobic, EPOC, EPOC. Those are all on the exam. Be familiar with those. Page number 6. You want to know force and torque. Anatomic locations. You want to know superior, inferior, proximal, distal, anterior, posterior, medial lateral, contralateral, ipsilateral. You want to know all those. Page 7, planes of motion. You want to know frontal, sagittal, transverse. You also want to know the joint motions. Flexion, extension, plantar flexion, dorsiflexion, abduction, adduction, horizontal abduction, internal rotation, and external rotation. Be familiar with all those terms. Page 8. Foundational concepts, the muscle action spectrum. You want to know concentric, eccentric, and isometric. Those are important to know. Make sure you memorize those. Force couple reaction, force velocity curve. You want to be familiar with that. Autogenic inhibition, reciprocal inhibition, and relative flexibility. Be familiar with all those terms. Page number 9. Altered reciprocal inhibition, you want to be familiar with that. Synergistic dominance, that's on there. The OPT model, the most important model that you need to know in the whole exam. I saw maybe 15 to 20 questions. So you want to know stabilization, strength, endurance, hypertrophy, maximal strength, and power. You want to know those, and also know the acute variables that go along with those. Page 10, Key concepts, principles of motor development. You want to know the motor behavior, motor control, motor learning, and motor development. Those are all important. Know a little bit about it. I saw maybe 2 or 3 questions on that. Okay, page 11. You want to know carbohydrates, lipids on the exam. I saw maybe 2 or 3 questions on lipids. Food sources for lipids, you want to know about that. Page 12, protein. You want to know how protein is used. That's important. Maybe there were 1 or 2 questions on that. Page 13, you want to know about the resting metabolic rate. Protein with a daily allowance, 10 to 35% of your diet. Carbs, you want to know that it's 45 to 65%. And your fats, you want to know that it's 20 to 35%. Very important to remember. Page 14, I didn't see anything on that. Page 15, for lean mass, 4 to 6 meals per day. Be familiar with that. PAR-Q, physical activity readiness questionnaire. Make sure you're familiar with that. There's maybe 2 or 3 questions that are on there. Page 17, common medications. Know what the medications are, what medications are used for. Example, beta blockers for high blood pressure. Be a little familiar with that. There may be 2 or 3 questions on there. You want to know the zones. Zone 1, Zone 2, Zone 3. Zone 1, 65 to 75%. Zone 2, 76 to 85%. Zone 3, 86% to 90. You want to know that. Be familiar with it. You also want to know the YMCA test, the 3-minute step test. Be familiar with it. Also, the Rockport walk test. Be familiar with that one too. Physiological assessments. You want to know the radial pulse, blood pressure, systolic, and diastolic. Make sure you know those. There's a couple questions on the exam. Static posterior assessment. Very important. Know this. There were maybe 12 to 15 questions on the exam. So know the anterior view, lateral view, and posterior view. The shortened muscles and the lengthened muscles. You want to know, you want to be familiar with it. Again, there's 12 to 15 questions on the exam. Page 20, you want to know the skin fold test measurements, the 4 sites on the body, the underwater weighing, and the circumference measurements. You want to be familiar with that. Page 21, you want to know the body mass index, BMI, of if you're obese, overweight, underweight. You want to know all those measurements. Be familiar with it. Key concepts for the Davies test. You want to know that. Shark skills test, bench press test, squat test, push-up test, and left test. Be familiar with it. Dynamic posterior assessments. This is another important part you want to know. On the exam, I saw maybe 20 questions on this. The overhead squat assessment. You want to know the overactive muscles, underactive muscles. Very important. Know this. Memorize it. A lot of people are saying you shouldn't memorize. You want to memorize it first, then be able to apply it. So memorization is very important, then be able to apply it. Single leg assessment. You want to know that. Very important. Pushing assessment. Pulling assessment, you want to know those. Very important. You'll see that on the test. Again, 12 to 15 questions. Let's go ahead and move forward to page 25. Key concepts, reassessments should happen every 4 weeks. Keep that in mind. That was on the test. That's just something you want to know. Page 25. Criteria for reassessment. Let's go ahead and move on to page 26. Flexibility training methods. Integrated flexibility, continuum you want to know, corrective flexibility, active flexibility, functional flexibility. You want to know those 3. You want to know static stretching, active isolated stretching, and dynamic stretching. Those are all important aspects of the exam. I saw 2 to 3 questions on there. Self-myofascial release, very important. You hold it for 30 seconds. Static stretch, 30 seconds. Active isolated stretching, again, and dynamic stretching. All important. You'll see those on the exam. Page 27, resistance training systems. I saw maybe 5 questions on this one. Single set, be familiar with. Multiple set, pyramid, superset, circuit training, peripheral heart action, split routine, vertical loading, horizontal loading. Remember all those concepts. For resistance training, know the tempo 421. For strength training, know the tempo 202. Power, it's an explosive phase. Just remember that. That was on the exam, maybe 2 to 5 questions. Cardiorespiratory training methods, know stage 1, 2, and 3. Be familiar with those. I remember seeing that on the exam. Page 29, stabilization, drawing in maneuver, and the bracing. Both of those are on the exam. I saw maybe 2 questions pertaining to those 2 concepts, drawing in maneuver and bracing. Page 30, eccentric, again, concentric, you want to know those. Key concepts and progression, you want to know stable, unstable, static, dynamic, slow to fast, 2 arm legs, single arm leg. You want to know all those. You want to know the progressions. It's very important. I saw maybe 5 questions. You want to know the modalities, the floor, balance beam, half foam roll, foam pad, balance disc, and wobble board. You want to know those. Again, there's several questions on the exam that cover those concepts. Plyometric training, I saw maybe two to 3 questions on reactive plyometric training. For the SAQ model, speed, agility, and quickness, I saw maybe 1 question, so be familiar with that. Page 32, general adaptation syndrome, no alarm reaction, be familiar with it, resistance development, and exhaustion. I remember seeing those on there. And some other key concepts, principle of specificity, know the 3 concepts for that too. Be familiar with it. I didn't see that much on there, but just read over it and just sort of have a general understanding. For the principle, the periodization concepts, annual plan, monthly plan, weekly plan, macro, meso, micro. I think there was 1 question on that I remember. Progressive overload, I saw something on that too, so be familiar with that. Page 34, the FIT principle, FITTE principle, be familiar with it. Frequency, intensity, time, type, enjoyment. No, just remember that, read over it, be familiar with it. Page 35, body weight training, suspension training, free weights and implements, strength training machines, proprioceptive modalities. Be familiar with it. Just read over it, make sure you understand it. Page 36, I didn't see anything. Page 37, be familiar with youth training considerations. Just the intensity levels. I remember for adult training considerations, just be familiar with intensity levels for pregnancy, obesity. On 38, 39, hypertension, the intensity level. That's all I remember there. Page 40, general warm-up. You want to be familiar with the concept. Specific warm-up, you want to know that. Cool down, that's on there. Triple extension flexion, I saw 2 questions on that, so be familiar with that. Review, page 41, the NASM Code of Conduct of Ethics and Guidelines all fitness professionals should know. Be familiar with it. Page 42, safe and effective spotting techniques. There's 2 questions on there, so know the key concepts. Communication components, tips to enhance communication. Be familiar with it. I saw a couple questions on closed-ended and open-ended questions. Page 44, SMART goals. No SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. I saw a couple questions there. Page 45, behavior changes and strategies, key concepts. Be familiar with it, but focus a lot on intrinsic approach. Remember I said that. And stages of change, that was on there too. Pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, and maintenance. That's on there too. Page 46, I didn't see anything. 47, steps to success, business fundamentals. Know those. That was on there. There was a couple questions. There were maybe 3 questions, so be familiar with them. At least memorize the first 5. Page 48, the 4 P's of marketing. I saw 1 question, so be familiar with product, price, place, and promotion. Be familiar with it. There was probably 1 question. And the last page 49, the only thing I remember that was on there is the key concept was obtaining 2.0 continuing education and complete the recertification application every 2 years. Make sure you know that. That's on there too. Okay, so after reading the full, you want to read the whole book, the whole chapters, the 21 to 24 chapters. Online it's a little bit different than the actual textbook. So make sure you read that over. It took me about 3 months to do the reading. Then after each section, each chapter, you want to make sure you pass the quiz. The quiz consists of usually 10 questions. Make sure you pass that. Then you'll move on to the next section. Make sure you print out the study guide. Then the next thing that I did was the flashcards. Flashcards are beneficial too. It has all the information. Make sure you do this repetition. You want to do it over and over and over again until you understand them. It's very important. Again, flashcards are good. You can order them online. A big thing that helped me was the NASM personal training exam book, study guide. This is my best friend here. I read the book over at least about 10 times. There's a quiz in the back that consists of 120 pages. Memorize it. I saw maybe 30 questions that were either the same, very similar. Again, get the book. It's very helpful. It has everything you need. The last thing I did was go online, do the practice test. The practice test. Practice tests are very important. Go on there. There's different sites. You just practice. Make sure you know those. There's several questions that are, again, that are on the test, are very similar. And I would do that. It's very important. Remember, in taking the exam, you want to have a different frame of mind. You want to go in, I want to ace the exam. That's your mindset. You don't want to go in, I just want to pass. Don't believe what people are telling you. Oh, this exam is hard. Oh, gosh, I flunked the first one. Oh, I flunked. It's going to be hard for you. It's not difficult. If you put the time in, you will get the results that you need to get. You'll get the results that the 70% easy. Because with the 100% mentality, you're passing the test like it's a joke. Seriously. Again, the test took me 52 minutes. Make sure you study hard, stay focused, and work hard. My name is Mark. I'm Coach Stone with ISN. Intensity starts now. Keep working, keep believing, keep dreaming. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. In 2 weeks, I'm going to come out with something else on the exam and give you some more exact questions and answers to the exam. So look for another video soon. So again, subscribe and make sure you like the video. I'm Coach Stone with ISN. Intensity starts now. Keep working, keep believing, keep dreaming. I'll see you next time.